And welcome back to Iron Sports. Now, Jamaican athletes and sports administrators were exposed to a much-needed two-day intellectual property rights and sports conference, which ended on Wednesday at the Jamaica Conference Center in Kingston. The conference, organized by the World Intellectual Property Organization in collaboration with the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports, as well as the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office, shed light on the role of IP in the sports arena and creating successful sports brands, among other things, inter alia. Now, we're now joined by one of the presenters, Rashid Hall, a Jamaican working with the Union of European Football Associations, UEFA, in Switzerland. Big business. Rashid, welcome to Iron Sports.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Jermaine.
Great to have you here. First time on Iron Sports, right?
First time, I believe, yes.
All right, so it'll be a good one. Before we delve into what you presented on the recent conference, how important was this IP conference overall?
I think very important. It's at a very crucial time for a number of reasons. Obviously, we're trying to maximize and monetize the opportunities for athletes locally and regionally, but also at a time when we noticed there's a shift in sports administrators locally. So we've seen a number of federations changing personnel. And so the re-education of this topic is quite key. And it was quite interesting because the topics were ranging not just in IP, but also additional topics, as we mentioned, brand. Right. We looked at broadcast, piracy, a number of other things that could be quite crucial and informative for sports administrators. All
right, now, in a nutshell, just explain to us what intellectual property rights are, just so everyone is au fait.
I think, you know, Executive Director Lilike Bellamy of the Jaipur said it quite astute. She said, your brand is you are your brand. Your face has value. And all of our athletes have value that they can monetize. So intellectual property could be trademark, could be their image rights, could be slogans. I mean, Usain's Bolt to the world slogan is registered. So all these things, if we consider the athlete as a business, just as any ordinary company, they also have assets that they can register to ensure that they can get monetary value from that.
Yeah. Let's look now quickly at your own presentation and the issue and the scope of what you presented and whether or not you think it was well received. Yeah, that's right.
I think so. I mean, based on the feedback from a number of athletes, a number of students that were there, that would indicate it was well received. I presented on two topics. The first being how corporate companies can use athletes as brand ambassadors. And also, your business is your value. So in other words, about athletes who should use their brand to ensure that they have a life after career as well.
Right. I mean, yeah, because your name and your name, as they say, is in the end all you have. And the image is very important. A few athletes would have been there. Veronica Campbell-Brown, I saw, was there. Asava Powell was there at some point. Yeah. In your own estimation, do you think Jamaican athletes, and when I say athletes, I mean right across the board, be it athletics, football, cricketers, are doing enough to protect their own image and their own rights as it pertains their image and names being associated with various things around the world?
I think the top-tier athletes are doing that, because, of course, this is not the first such conference. There was one also in 2011, organized again by the Jaipur with assistance from WIPO and other entities. The top athletes, to my understanding, have gone ahead and taken that step. Shelley-Ann has registered her pocket rocket, for example.
Right.
Shelley's Cafe, for example. Usain has done that. I think the opportunity is to educate the younger athletes. And so this is the era where we want to develop them. And so they can understand that this is also something they need to do as well.
And how do they go about registering their particular brands?
They would get in touch with the local office, which is Jaipur, the Jamaica Intellectual Property Office, who, of course, can assist them in doing the process throughout.
Yeah. Sports is big business, and there is money to be made. How will the athletes, after registering their brands, their names, their images, benefit from having registered with Jaipur, and indeed even internationally as well? How do they benefit overall?
It's really about protection.
Right.
And registering, also you need to register in certain markets. And so athletes would tend to register in key markets where they think there could potentially be issues. So I'm traveling next week to Slovenia for CA11. And if I go there and I say, Usain Bolt Aki, for example, and I was to report that to them, he could, of course, be able to get monetary value from that because they are in breach of using his trademark without permission, if they are.
And what of athletes based even here in Jamaica and their images being used here in Jamaica locally? Because, you know, you have to start a yard before you go abroad.
Yes.
How do they, what you call it, tap into this? You know?
I think locally, of course, it's the same process. It just depends on the athlete and how much they want to go after that. Of course, in some cases, it could even go as far as a court case, sorry.
Right.
And so therefore, it's really about how much benefit they think they can get from it.
Right.
We find that athletes tend to be more lenient locally, but internationally is where they really want to ensure they're protected.
Yeah. And still on the issue of athletes earning from their images. For instance, Chris Gale, he has a brand called Attitude.
Yes.
You see his T-shirts are out and what have you. I think Marlon Samuels, he has something called Icon. So is this the way athletes can go about creating brands for themselves? I mean, outside of their own names, what of those, you call it, pseudo-names, you know, pseudo-images and so on? How beneficial and do you recommend them doing this?
Well, certainly. Yeah. I think as we discussed at the conference over the past 2 days, athletes have a great opportunity because they have such an audience.
Right.
And it's on them to be able to use that audience and maximize the opportunities from that. We mentioned also that salaries tend to not be the main income earner for the top athletes.
Right.
Endorsements, doing other projects that you mentioned, doing projects that involve their brand as well is quite important.
Right.
So they can ensure they have additional revenue streams.
Yeah.
And some of our top athletes that you mentioned have started to do that. And we hope that even younger athletes, with the event of social media now, every athlete has an audience and they can monetize on that as well.
And how do they bring in sponsors here as well? That is not just the athletes, but the managers as well, to say, listen, my athlete, for instance, Gail, he has a clothing line called Attitude. How do they bring in the sponsors to, let's say, push these images for them and you know, various endorsements and so on?
I think it's really a case-by-case basis. Of course, you have to have a good fit.
Right.
You want to know the athletes, based on their character, their persona, their charisma, is a good fit for the brand.
Right.
We try to push, and in my specific presentation, try to push a lot on the sponsors side, and that belief in the fact that athletes can give them an opportunity to get in front of a new audience, and the belief in the athlete and what they can bring to their brand. Yeah. That's something I think we can work on quite a bit, even beyond the top tier of athletes.
All right, let's get back to your own path now, your own career, because you're creating your own brand too. Now, of course, you're the sponsorship coordinator at the Creative Artists Agency 11 with UEFA. Of course, many Jamaicans will be familiar with UEFA as it pertains to football and Champions League and so on. But what does your role entail overall, though?
CA11 is the exclusive agency for UEFA when it comes to national team football. Yeah. So we manage and sell their media and sponsorship rights. In the layman terms, it means that McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Kia, all these sponsors for the Euro comes through our agency, and we are activating these brands at the Euro on the ground. For myself personally, I'm on the sponsorship team. I'm the lead for Futsal Euro 2018 and also working on managing a few sponsor accounts as well. Yeah. So it's been a great opportunity to be working in football and at an international level as high as UEFA. It's
really good to have a young Jamaican as yourself there. But how challenging is it for you being in Switzerland and carrying on your role?
I would say from a work point of view, obviously, it's quite interesting to be learning at that level. I'm always committed to, of course, trying to pass on anything I learn to our country and here in Jamaica. But to be able to be at that stage where things are at the highest level in international sports, biggest sport being football, that's certainly a great opportunity. Living in Switzerland as a country is tough. I've been there 2.5 years, and with friends and family and support system, it's been getting a bit easier, but of course no place so nice like yard.
Good to have you back too. I know you go back shortly, and you know, footballers who might be tuned into the program now, they hear UEFA and that you are associated with UEFA. What are the opportunities that exist for Jamaican footballers, you know, in Europe, and also exciting Jamaican footballers who can get their brand or start their own branding in Europe and so on?
I would say two ways. Obviously, we know we've heard articles of some challenges recently of footballers trying to come into the Premier League and having some challenges there. That exists based on the structure of where we are in terms of our ranking.
Right.
But there are a number of other countries that also offer high-quality leagues that could be a source of revenue and experience for these athletes as well. And I think they need to look a bit wider in terms of that sense. On a second way, I think athletes, that we talk about developing brands, they can market themselves through social media, through YouTube. If they can be able to compile themselves in terms of the action that they've done on the field and be able to present that in a way, that might just spark the idea of a scout, and it might just start a good opportunity for them as well.
Final, have you been in touch with their managers, coaches, and even some of the footballers themselves? Have you been able to, be in touch with them and do anything for them? Or?
Not really, because honestly, we don't have any Jamaican footballers in Switzerland.
Right.
But the Swiss national record holder in the 100, Alex Wilson,
is
Jamaican
roots.
He went there, I think, in his late teens.
Right.
So we are connected in that way.
Right.
But I have not come across any Jamaican footballers in the space. Yeah. Certainly, if I can see an opportunity to help someone to come across, I'll definitely push that.
Rashid Hall, thank you very much for joining us here on Iron Sports. Of course, intellectual property rights, big business in sports, and athletes should definitely move towards making full opportunity here. All right, we take a break, and when we return, we'll be on the court with basketball. Interesting things happening there. Soon come.